He was already on his knees between her legs when she said it. "Don't touch that." The barn was quiet, too quiet for a summer noon in Texas. Dust hung in the light like it had nowhere else to go, and the only sound was a restless horse shifting its weight behind him. Silas Reed didn't look like a man helping someone, a 47-year-old ranch hand, hat low, shoulders heavy, crouched over a young woman pinned against the hay. Her legs were spread, one knee bruised deep purple, blood dried along her thigh where cloth had stuck and torn. To anyone walking past that open barn door, it would have looked wrong. He didn't move when she said it. Something tied just above it, a small bundle. Wrapped tight in cloth, pressed against her skin like it mattered more than the blood. "You touched that," she said again, voice shaking but stubborn. "And I'll fight you. Even like this." There was pain there. Sure, and exhaustion, but underneath it was something harder. She wasn't begging. She was guarding something. Silas had seen women hurt before, and years ago. He'd made the mistake of walking away from one. Nobody stepped in after him. He still remembered how that ended. He reached for the cloth anyway. Back. Slow. Careful. Not to take it. Just to understand what kind of trouble had found him this time. Her hand snapped up and grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Don't," she said. Quieter now, but sharper. That was when he noticed it. Layered scars that didn't come from falling off a horse. This wasn't one bad day. This was a life. He let out a slow breath, then finally pulled his hand back. "All right," he muttered. Outside, somewhere beyond the barn, a distant shout carried on the dry wind. Men. More than one. Looking, for her. Silas glanced toward the open door, then back at the woman on the ground, and he had one clean choice. Walk her into town, hand her off, and then ride away like he always did. Or step into something that didn't end clean. The kind of trouble that followed a man for years. He reached for his canteen instead. Not the bundle, not yet. And that was the moment everything went wrong. Because whatever was hidden under that cloth was worth men riding hard in this heat to get it back. So the question wasn't whether Silas should get involved. It was this. What kind of man risks his life for something he doesn't even understand? Yet Silas didn't ask her name right away. Out here, names could wait. Blood couldn't. He poured a little water over the cloth near her thigh. Not touching the bundle, just easing the dried fabric loose so it wouldn't tear her skin again. She winced, jaw tight, but didn't pull away this time. That was something. "Can you stand?" he asked. She shook her head once. Honest. Not dramatic, just done. He nodded like he expected that. Then he leaned back, resting on his heels, eyes drifting toward the barn door again. Those voices outside weren't close yet, but they were coming. "You running from someone?" he said. More statement than question. A beat. Then she gave in. "My father," that word sat heavy in the air. Silas didn't react right away, but he rubbed his jaw slow, then spat into the dust beside his boot. "Name Mercer," she said. Amos Mercer. That got his attention. He knew the name. Most men within a day's ride did. Big spread, too big for the last couple dry seasons, meaning something wasn't adding up. And that, he nodded toward the bundle, belongs to him. Her eyes sharpened. No, that answer came fast, too fast to be a lie. "It was my mother's," she added, quieter now. Silas watched her for a moment, then he reached for his hat, settled it back on his head like he was thinking through something he didn't like. "All right," he said. "Start talking." She didn't give him a long story, just pieces. "You ever hear a man playing something ugly and smile while doing it?" she said. "She turned 24 last week. That land near Palo Duro Canyon, her mother's land, was supposed to be hers now. But her father had other plans. He'd been losing money, cattle thin, water low. Dry seasons had been wearing the land down, and a man like Amos Mercer wasn't built to lose what he thought was his. Debt, creeping in quiet. Then a lawyer showed up. Wallace Pritchard. Smooth voice, Clean boots. Bad kind of help. Papers got drawn up. Dates didn't look right. And last night, Clara heard enough through a half-closed door to know one thing. By morning, she'd either sign everything away or get broken until she did. So she took the paper, took the letter her mother left, and ran. Silas listened without interrupting. Didn't need to. Outside. The voices got closer now. One of them laughed. Not a friendly sound. Silas stood up slow. Every joint in his body reminded him he wasn't young anymore. "All right," he said. "Here's the part you ain't gonna like." She looked up at him. "I don't carry other people's fights," he went on. "Not anymore. I just need a little time," she said. "Don't we all?" he muttered. He took a step toward the door, then stopped. Something in the way she held that bundle, not like money, not like fear, like it was the last piece of something already gone. Silas exhaled through his nose, low, tired, then turned back. "One night," he said, "I hide you by the river. Come morning, you're on your own." That was the deal. Simple, clean. The kind a man like him could live with. But as those riders closed in and the heat pressed down harder on that barn roof, one thing was already clear. This wasn't going to stay simple. Not for him, not for her, and definitely not for anyone who thought this was just about a piece of land. They didn't stay by the river long. A hiding place near water was only good for a few hours, maybe a night if luck held. By the time the sun started dropping, Silas already had her on a horse. Riding slow and steady across dry ground, keeping off the obvious trails. Clara didn't complain, didn't ask where they were going. She just held that bundle close, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. That told him everything. They reached Harper Ranch near dusk. Zeke Harper came out of the barn wiping his hands, eyes narrowing the moment he saw Silas riding in with trouble. "Don't tell me you brought company," Zeke said. Silas slid off his horse, joints stiff. "Just a place for the night," he replied. Zeke looked past him. Men like Zeke didn't need long explanation. He stepped aside. "Barn's cooler than the house," he said. That was his way of saying yes. Inside. Things moved fast. Zeke didn't ask many questions at first, but when he saw the papers, everything changed. He didn't touch them. Just leaned in, eyes scanning, then leaned back. Slow. "This ain't just a family mess," he muttered. "No," Silas said. "It ain't." Zeke nodded once. "I've seen that lawyer in town. He said..." "Pritchard? Man smiles too much for clean work." Clara spoke back then, voice steadier now. "He's working with my father." Zeke let out a short breath. "No," he said. "He's working for himself." That was the first time the ground shifted. Not just a father trying to take land. Something bigger. Something dirtier. Silas glanced at Clara. She caught it too, for the first time. This wasn't just about surviving the night. This was about proving something. Zeke straightened up. "There's someone you need to see," he said. "Old midwife out near Palo Duro. She knows things people forgot." Silas didn't like where this was heading. Long rides, more risk, less chance of walking away clean. Clara looked at him. Didn't beg, didn't push, just waited. Silas sighed low. "All right," he said. "We ride at first light. If you're still with me this far, go on and hit subscribe. Then grab a coffee and tell me where you're listening from. Because what happened next out in Palo Duro, that's where this story stopped being about land and started being about who was willing to lose everything. They rode before the sun had a chance to turn mean. Out past Harper Land, the ground opened wide and dry and quiet. The kind of place where a man could disappear if he chose to. Silas kept them off the main trail. Slow pace. Clara rode better than he expected. Just steady. The kind of riding you learn when you grow up around work, not comfort. By midday, the heat came down hard. No breeze. No mercy. Zeke wiped his neck with a cloth and muttered, "If I die out here, I'm haunting both of you." Silas didn't smile. Clara almost did. They reached the edge of Palo Duro Canyon late afternoon. Red earth, deep cuts in the land. shadows that stretched long and hid things you didn't want to meet. The midwife's place sat low and quiet, half cabin, half memory, tucked against the canyon like it had been there since the old fighting days. The old woman who opened the door didn't waste time asking questions. She looked at Clara once, then stepped aside. Your mother had the same eyes. She said, inside, the truth came out clean. The will was real. The land was Clara's. Always had been, and her mother knew this day might come, so she had a copy made and witnessed proper by hands the county would respect. Then she hid it where no man in that house would think to look. The old woman reached under a worn wooden chest, pulled out a folded cloth, and handed it over. Clara didn't open it right away. She just held it, like something heavy had finally settled. For a moment, it felt like they were ahead, like maybe this could end without more damage. That feeling didn't last long, because when they stepped back outside, something was wrong. Too quiet. No horses tied where they left them. Zeke was gone. So was one of the horses, and half the papers. That's when Silas knew this just got worse. Silas's jaw tightened. Damn it, he muttered. Claire didn't say a word, didn't panic, didn't cry. She just looked down at what she still held, then back up at Silas, and in that moment, he realized something important. She wasn't surprised, not really. Which half did he take? Silas asked. The part they'd chase. She said, now that changed things, because if Zeke wasn't running away, then someone else was already riding straight toward them. They didn't run this time. That was the difference. By the time they rode back toward the county seat near the Canadian River, the dust behind them wasn't fear anymore. It was purpose. Zeke met them just outside town, blood on his sleeve, still in the saddle. Told you they'd follow me, he said, like it was nothing. He handed over what he kept, and more than that, he brought a man, a quiet one, a records clerk who'd seen enough to know a lie when it crossed his desk, the kind of man who usually kept his head down. Until one day he didn't. Inside that small town office, nothing felt fair. It never does. A county clerk sat behind a worn desk, flipping through records and dates, matching signatures line by line. This wasn't something that truly ended in a day, but it was enough to stop a lie before it settled in as law. Amos stood there like he owned the place. Wallace stood like he owned the future. Clara stood like she had nothing left to lose. The papers came out, the real ones. The lies cracked, slow. Then all at once, Wallace tried to talk his way around it. Amos said nothing. He looked like a man who finally understood he'd burned the last thing that mattered. Clara didn't raise her voice, didn't cry. She just told the truth, clear, steady. And that was enough to turn the room. Not because the world is fair, but because sometimes the truth finds one crack and breaks everything open. By late afternoon, the clerk had marked the true paper for record, and the sheriff had heard enough to keep Pritchard from getting any closer. The fight wasn't finished forever, but the land was safe for Clara, and the lies were out where everyone could see them. Silas stood outside after, hat low, like he always did when it was time to leave. Clara walked up beside him. You leavin'? She asked. He nodded once. She looked out at the land, then back at him. You don't always have to, she said. Simple words, but they land heavy when you've spent a lifetime walking away. Silas didn't answer right off. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like running, and maybe that's the part that matters. Not every fight fixes the world, but some of them fix the man who stayed. It wasn't the fight. It wasn't the papers. It was the moment a man decided he was done turning his back on what mattered. So let me ask you something. How many times have you walked away from something you knew wasn't right, just because it was easier, and if you had one more chance? Would you stay this time if this story stayed with you? Go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Now one more thing. This story is retold with added details for meaning and impact, and visuals are created to bring it to life. If it's not your kind of story, that's all right. Take care of yourself tonight all the same. But if it stayed with you, even just a little, leave a comment. Tell me where you're listening from. I'll be right here with another story when you're ready.